Welcome to your reading for September 2025. This is Artemis, Oracle and Tarot, a space for those walking the moonlit path. Seekers looking to explore and integrate the divine masculine in ways that feel authentic, embodied and whole. This work centers on masculinity, but it's not exclusive to men. Masculinity lives in all of us, regardless of our gender, orientation or identity. Many of us carry unconscious, wounded or toxic expressions of masculinity, and this space is here to offer guidance and reflection so we can meet that energy with openness and sincerity. So whether you're male, female, non-binary or something beautifully in between, you are welcome here, and this is exactly where you're meant to be. My name is Adrian, or you can call me Ade, the creator of Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle decks, which you'll see today. These decks came about out of my own dark night journey as a gay man who felt spiritually stuck and disconnected from divinity after painful early experiences with religion. I learned that whether something is scientifically real or not is almost besides the point, because if we experience as real, it has power. It can hinder us or it can help. So I chose to change my relationship to spirituality into something that actually helps. Hello Scorpio, welcome to your monthly reading for September. I hope that this reading finds you well. Today we will be doing a 3-card oracle spread following the traditional past, current and future model, and then following that we will do a slightly longer tarot spread which follows a unique flow that I designed, which I'll go into a little bit more when we get to that part. But to start, I'll just call in spirit and light some incense. So we've got some dragon's blood incense today, which I think suits Scorpio energy quite nicely. All right, we've got that going. And without any further ado, I'll grab my oracle cards and we'll get this show on the road. Just as I do that, a reminder that all of the archetypes that we come across today, you can read more about them on my website, which is artemispalimpsest.com. You can find that link in the video description below. And you can read about the others as well. There's 44 that comprise the divine masculine archetypes in the divine oracle, Artemis Oracle deck. And there's also links to the store where you can buy those if you like them. All right, so we're looking for a card that speaks to the past for our Scorpio friends. All right, you've picked the Chernabog card here in the past. If you're not familiar with this archetype, if you've ever seen the cartoon Fantasia, yes, that's the kind of gargoyle looking cartoon dude. And he speaks to, I guess, self-sabotaging loops of behavior or a desire, an unconscious kind of desire and clinging to that which is familiar, and astrologically it's kind of like linked to the South Node, so it's kind of representative of things that we have already learnt about and need to let go of in this lifetime. They're not, there's no spiritual or personal kind of growth there for us in this kind of lifetime, if that makes sense. And so this can be things like sticking to the same kind of work because it feels familiar and comfortable, even though there's something else that you know you really want to do, but perhaps it's a little bit scarier because it's an unknown, right? Or it can represent you know, this sense of holding on to friendships from childhood or teenage years because they feel familiar, but actually they stopped kind of serving you or leaving you feeling positive about yourself quite a while ago, and yet there's this kind of clinging to them and maintaining them despite the fact that they no longer make you feel positive about yourself. And I'm not saying discard friends, I'm definitely not saying that, but I'm saying like have a think about how much investment of time you put into those things that leave you feeling kind of like, oh. And the fact that it's sitting in your past suggests to me that this is work that you've either done, or it's a sense of like recognition that this is something that you've been already kind of thinking about for a little while, and perhaps now is the time to kind of address that. So let's move into the current card and see if that further contextualizes Chernabog for us. All right, we're looking for a present card for Scorpio. Okay, you've picked Cupid here in your present. And Cupid speaks to new romantic energy, magnetic energy, and loving kindness, like in a sense of both towards yourself and towards those around you. And I really love Cupid energy because it is similar to Romeo energy, which is also Romeo's one of the archetypes in the deck, but where Romeo's love is blind and all-consuming, Cupid has a bow and arrow, right? And so he's much more discerning with his love, and also when he takes aim, like he doesn't miss. He's very accurate with his aim, and so it speaks to a more evolved type of love, and one where we send that love to those that we want to send with deliberate kind of conscious attention, and having used our discernment to determine whether or not the intended target is one that will also return love or receive it with kind of gratitude, and it won't end up being kind of harming for us. All right, let's move along to the last card for the future. And actually, I just want to kind of point out that for Cupid love to kind of manifest in its best energy, you need to have done the shadow work around these things that Chernabog is kind of drawing attention to. Because if you're clinging, if you're focused on your South Node, then you're not giving love from a place of worthiness. You're giving it from a place of insecurity, entitlement, or attachment. And when we love from an insecure place, it can become quite destructive in that we start to tie our identity around being in that relationship. And if that relationship dissolves for whatever reason, and that could be familial, it could be romantic, like when that relationship ends for whatever reason, it can be really destabilizing. And so the best and most productive place to build that first sense of love is, of course, with ourselves, because once we love ourselves, then we no longer need anyone else to build that sense of worthiness. We already have that within ourselves, and from there, when you start to give love to others, you're no longer doing so from a place of deficit. You're doing it from a place of grounded kind of knowing of who you are. All right, so for the future for Scorpio, wow. Okay, so you've picked the Animus card here. I should show that, sorry. So the Animus card here in the future position. And Animus, from a Jungian perspective, speaks to the inner masculine that resides in the unconscious of every individual. So we each have an anima, which is the feminine counterpart, and we have an animus.
And so for males, well, most males, the animus is kind of present and dominant from a very young age. And the anima often resides in the unconscious, where we need to make an effort to understand who she is and how to integrate aspects of her into our personality without repressing them. And for most women, or most people who identify as women, it's the opposite. Um, Now, I'm going to speak to my personal experience here. Like, as a gay man, my experience was different. I definitely met and integrated my anima first. From a young age, I was creative, I was intuitive, I was very receptive to the needs of others. As it relates to your spread, the Animus speaks to integrated masculinity, healthy authority, and boundaries. And so, following on from this is actually quite a beautiful spread, because we're speaking about kind of like the unhealed aspects that need to be kind of addressed. And then from that, when they are addressed, comes that ability to love in a healthy and balanced way. And then moving forward into the future, that's when you kind of step into your really integrated masculinity, with the ability to lead with authority without being dismissive, without being dictator, without being manipulative. You're actually, people follow you because they want to. They see, here's a person who knows what they're doing, they've got their shit together, they're emotionally regulated. Why wouldn't I want to follow that person, right? And that comes from boundaries, that comes from knowing who we are, and that comes from being able to extend a sense of loving kindness to every person, even if they're someone that you don't particularly know or like. It's this sense of like, what harms one harms us all. And, when you've done shadow work enough, because no one's ever finished doing shadow work, but once you've done enough shadow work, you start to see others and the pain within them. You start to see them and the fear within them. And it's really hard when you can see that, to stay angry at them, or to want to punish them, or to want to see bad things happen to them, because all you start to see is really scared little kids. And that opens up the compassion to sort of start to see multiple truths that don't fit well next to each other. It's when you can kind of look at really difficult kind of world scenarios and be heartbroken by them, but also see that it's not a right or wrong answer. There's so much complexity that goes into it, and that it's not a simple answer, and anything that's trying to point to a simple answer is just more theatre on the news and TV, trying to draw us into a polarized society. Because when we're angry with each other and when we're focused on one another, we're not focused on the really important things, which is individuation, which is pulling together as everyone living on this planet. We're all of this planet. We're all made of stardust. We're literally made of stuff that the sun kind of like exploded out. And so, we have the same source, and it's shining up in the sky. It's hot. All right, that's the oracle portion of the reading, and I'll jump into the tarot next. All right, so let's jump into the tarot portion of the reading. I'll just get the tarot cards out here. And the reading, the spread that I'll be using today is called the Healed Heart Spread. It's one that I devised myself a little earlier this year, after doing some deep shadow work and some kind of inner child reparenting. And the kind of format just sort of came to me, and it seemed pretty... What I like about it is that it offers like psychological, spiritual, and kind of your typical tarot insights, which it's good because you can take it as far as you want to in terms of that. So I think I've explained in some of the other readings in this month, like the Healed Heart spread follows the star format of the Lesser Banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is a magical kind of ritual in a number of kind of esoteric traditions like Hermeticism, and you know, whether you view it as magic or not is kind of besides the point, because ritual has been shown scientifically to help humans kind of process and release from sort of a narrative perspective almost. And so when you see me talking about things like magic on this channel, I hope it doesn't put you off, because for me it's mostly allegorical. It's a process of investing into something so that it can be taken out of my kind of system. And so you know, science has shown with the placebo effect even that, like, if someone believes in something and then does something, the power that can come from that is quite significant, up to and including like people curing themselves of some pretty pretty heavy you know, diseases and cancers and stuff like that. So disclaimer, I'm not a doctor obviously, but yeah, it's the power of belief, and where you put your attention and the kind of intent that you have and the emotion behind that really dictates what you know you can kind of create for yourself in the world. Sorry, that was a bit of a long preamble, so but we're getting there. Over to the cards. The method of selection that I use for tarot is to use a pendulum, and so I'll be doing that again today. And I think, given, you know, the theme of what we've discussed so far, I'm going to use the rose quartz pendulum. Rose quartz is known for its kind of links to loving kindness, compassion, and so I think that those themes are really resonant with what we've already seen in the cards today. Especially, I think Cupid would definitely approve of this choice. So we're looking for anti-clockwise circles. No. Yeah, that looks like it could be it. No. Sorry. All right, so it was this top left one over here. And we only need 6 cards for the Healed Heart spread. So I'm just going to do a quick shuffle of these and split it again into piles of 6, and then we'll use the pendulum one last time. If anyone in the viewing audience is an avid tarot reader and you have spreads that you use or a method that you use for selecting cards, I'd love to hear from you. So drop it in the comments what process you follow. And yeah, because I'm always fascinated to hear how other people go about their process. All right, so 3 cards, 3 piles. Let's get out rose quartz again. Okay, yeah, that looks like it straight off the bat. No. And no. All right, so it was that first pile. Now, as I lay out the cards face down, I'll explain each of the positions and what they kind of indicate, and also which element they represent. So as I mentioned, it's based on a 5-point star or a pentagram. So the lower left point of the star is the earth element, and it represents what's supporting you or challenging you right now. And sometimes it can be what is supporting you and challenging you right now. At the top in the center, we've got the spirit position, which is what your higher self wants you to know. In the bottom right position, we have the fire position, which also represents how others might view you as it relates to this situation. At the top left, which is the receptive side of the star, we have the air position, and it indicates what spirit is suggesting you be open to receiving. And over here on the right, we have the active side of the star, and this is what spirit is suggesting you do, or what tactic you should use, or the approach that you should take. And then last but not least, in the middle here, in the soul element, it's what's in your heart right now. So that can kind of give you a general sort of sense about how you feel about the situation. So from here, without any further kind of delay, we'll just, I'll turn the cards over one by one and give you a bit of a download as to what I think might be going on for you. All right, Scorpio, let's go. So in the what's supporting you or challenging you right now, you've turned over the Page of Wands in reverse. So the Page of Wands is kind of youthful sort of fire energy, and in reverse it can indicate a person who is either sort of like missing that spark, that perhaps even that creative spark, and it's tied to kind of inner child work. So if you're doing a job that requires creativity, or if you have children, or if you work with children and lately you've kind of felt like your tank is a little bit empty, it could be because your own inner child is sort of lacking that sense of wonder, or lacking that sense of rest and rejuvenation that kind of is, you know, at the core of any kind of creative work. And I think as a person who's creative and has worked in creative sort of fields, one of the things that can be really challenging is that you know, corporates and the larger kind of capitalist machine don't understand that creativity is not like on tap, and you know, you'll get deadlines and pressures and you'll be forced to kind of like try and meet those, but that's not how creativity works. It comes in ebbs, it flows. And you know, we find ourselves kind of forcing creativity, which doesn't give the best results, but also it takes like a real toll on us as well. And then when we want to be creative, we kind of sit there and like our body just goes like and so I would say that what's probably challenging you right now is you know, taking the time out to rest and rejuvenate. I think we should, you know, in our current society, in this day and age, we overvalue productive time and we undervalue recuperative time. And I think that's absolutely wrong. It should be 50-50. We can't be at our best unless we are, you know, taking the time, not just for sleep, but for leisure activities, for having a laugh, for doing something silly and whimsical just because we can. The best creative ideas come out of play. And if you're not finding that time for yourself, I encourage you to. In terms of what Spirit is wanting to share with you, or what your higher self is wanting to let you know, you've turned over the Ten of Pentacles in the upright, which is, it's a sign from Spirit saying like, hey, that thing that you want, you know, that project that you want to do, or that dream house that you've been dreaming about, like it's within your reach. And you know, following directly after this, it's like, it's saying like, invest in you so that you can create that legacy that you want for yourself, for your family, for your children. You know, it's part of your soul work. You're absolutely meant to achieve that thing, but it's only possible if you do the work now to make sure that you're not operating from an empty cup. And I think, Scorpio, one of the things that I admire about you is your drive, but there can also be a tendency to want to go it alone. And I have a bit of Scorpio in my chart, so I know exactly what that's like. I don't think anyone can ever like do stuff for us. Like that's not what it's about, but it's about being with people who understand you and can hear you without trying to solution for you, without kind of thinking you're a whinger or any of that. Like people who are worthy of hearing your shitty stories and can just like sit beside you and go, yeah, that sounds like it really fucking sucks. Do you want to have a drink? We all need those friends in our life. So I encourage you to find those people, find your tribe and spend time with them to help, you know, relight that fire. All right, from the outside looking in, yeah, the Hanged Man. So even your friends have noticed there's been a little bit of not a withdrawal, because the Hanged Man is a person who practices radical non-attachment and non-resistance. They kind of have mastered the art of letting letting it be as it may, letting the leaves fall as they will, or whatever the saying is. Like they have radical non-attachment to outcomes and to people, and it's not disassociation, it's not caring, it's knowing the things that we can influence and knowing the things that are outside of our influence, and really surgically almost directing our attention where it will have the most impact. And I think Scorpio, I use the word surgically specifically because, with your stinger tail, like Scorpios are almost like supernatural in terms of their ability to like cut out all the crap and focus on like what's in the heart of the matter. And it just so happens that you're at the heart of the matter this time. And I think that's where water signs in general can have a little bit of difficulty, because we love to focus on the others around us and what's external to us, and we can sometimes fail to direct that same attention inwards. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. From the outside in, people are seeing you as someone who's like perhaps a little solitary at the moment, but also admiring you for your ability to know yourself and not accept anything less than what you're willing to accept. On the receptive side of the star, if you do this work and if you relight that fire, Spirit is saying be open to things changing very quickly. The Eight of Wands kind of signifies when our thoughts and hearts are aligned, that we can make things change really quickly, because that's what manifestation is. It's when we have how we feel aligned with what we think and how we visualize what we want. And once you have those things in alignment, there's very little that can kind of prevent you from kind of achieving it, especially Scorpio, because the mental perspicacity and the willpower there is very focused, like a laser almost. All right, let's move over to the active side of the star. You've turned over the Page of Swords here, and the Page of Swords, I always think of the Seeker of Truth. In fact, I've made this card look quite a lot like Richard Ryle from the Sword of Truth series, in that the Page of Swords has a youthful, exuberant energy. They're very articulate. They have a need to know truth, and they use their sword to cut through the rot to ascertain with their discernment like what is actually true and valid. And the fact that it's in reverse here on your active side, I'm kind of getting a sense from Spirit that sometimes you dig with a little too much ferocity, or sometimes you can be relentless in digging away at yourself, because you uphold yourself to such high standards that any perceived failure is not acceptable, and then that can lead to some pretty challenging internal kind of dialogues. And I think that might also have something to do with why this kind of fire has perhaps dimmed a little bit, is that our inner child doesn't respond well to the critical parent in a monologue. And many of us unfortunately adopt that monologue as a result of kind of growing up in a environment where we were praised and rewarded for being well behaved, for achieving well, and for sort of doing as we're told. And those aren't bad things, but if there wasn't enough of kind of unconditional love, then in adulthood that can kind of manifest in a problematic sense, where the inner critic becomes overly critical, and it can contribute to feelings of depression and anxiety, because we have this voice in our head saying like, you're not good enough, and there's not a counterbalancing voice that kind of lets us know that like, hey, even if we missed this time, it doesn't make us a rubbish person. And so I think the advice here from Spirit is to as part of this kind of hanged man, when you're meditating or when you're having moments of reflection, is to be on the lookout for that inner critic voice and challenge it. We're not telling it to shut up. We're not getting angry at it. We're not being dismissive of it, but we're saying, I hear you and thanks for that perspective, but is it really true? Or what other perspectives might also be true? And I think the biggest part of shadow work is if you end up repressing one thing to elevate another thing, you haven't done it. Because we're aiming to not repress anything. We're aiming rather to let everything that's be here, but also knowing with discernment, like when something might not be the whole truth. So yeah, I did mess up that thing and that is unfortunate, but also, how might I find other perspectives that are equally valuable so that, you're not falling into the trap of believing entirely in what the inner critic has to say, because they're not entirely wrong, but they're also not entirely right either. All right, so in the middle, for what's in your heart right now, you've got the Two of Wands, and I love to see this because the Two of Wands, again, it represents kind of like a youthful energy, but this one is kind of looking out over the horizon. They're eager to put what it is that they know and what they've learned into the world, and they're excited for it. It's almost like having the world in the palm of your hands. And so I think that's probably a perfect message to end on. I think Scorpio, you've got wonderful things in store. I think there's great potential for building a legacy that is materially prosperous and emotionally abundant, and all it requires is a little bit of inner child reflection and working to find that spark and set it on fire again. To be clear, inner fire, not setting anything on fire. All right, that's it for September. I hope this finds you well, and I'll see you back here, Scorpio, next month. Thanks. Bye. Well, that's all I've got for you today. So let that settle and rest and relax through it. Not everything needs to be understood at once. All of the cards that were used today, the Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle cards, were designed and created by me. You can find them on my website at www.artemispalimpsest.com. That link's below in the description. And on the site, you can explore the 44 divine masculine archetype profiles that comprise the deck, as well as find links to buy them. So do inquire about a one-on-one personal reading if you'd like to go deeper. And also keep an eye out for videos starting this week. I'll be doing one deep dive archetype video each week where I'll explore the symbolism, art, and creative process behind developing these. If this reading resonated, please like, comment, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need it. It really helps this work find the people it's meant to serve. This is Artemis, Oracle and Tarot. Divine what can't be seen by day, and behold with new perspective that which stalked in the night. I will see you back here next month. You've been watching Artemis, Oracle and Tarot, a sacred space for healing for those on the moonlit path. Join us here on YouTube for monthly tarot readings by astrology sign and deep dives into the imagery and symbolism used in the making of our unique Artemis, Oracle and Tarot decks. If having a space to work through the unpleasant but necessary parts of adulting sounds good to you, like and subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Instagram so you never miss a beat. All links are in the description below.